So you stepped on the scale and it went up. Of course, everybody says, don't worry about the scale. It's just a number. It doesn't matter. But the truth is the scale doesn't lie. So the scale isn't the problem. But what if you are? Let's talk about what happens when your weight isn't going down and what the real problem is. Now, first, this might be a hot take and some people might get upset about this, and you have my permission to click off this video if this is not for you, if it is triggering in any way and makes you uncomfortable. But this video is for the people who have a lot of weight to lose and aren't seeing the scale go down and are using a GLP-1 medication, but are not finding the success that other people are having, and some things that you might be able to do to help you along your journey to weight loss success. If you're new here, I'm Megan. I've lost 125 pounds. I started at 243 pounds in August of 2023. It took me 10 months to lose 100 pounds, and then I slowly lost another 25 pounds as I became the fittest, most healthy version of myself that I couldn't have even possibly imagined. Everything I say in this video comes from a place of love and wanting to help people. There is no shame because I couldn't have done this if it wasn't for the GLP-1 medication helping me along the way. So what I'm going to say in this video is a tough love message, but know that it comes with a caveat that we have this tool called medication that is helping us along the way. And so if you're not finding the success that you're wanting to have, it could be that you need to adjust your medication, and that's something that you'll want to talk to your doctor about. If you are trying to do this without medication, go and talk to your doctor about getting on a GLP-1 because it is a life-saving, life-changing medication and tool that is the only way that I was able to lose 125 pounds and keep it off. Like many of you, I have tried many other diets and lifestyle changes along the way that should have worked but didn't. The key for me was needing that medication on board and in my brain so that it made all of the changes that I was making in my day-to-day life easy and effortless. I didn't have to rely on willpower. I didn't have to rely on motivation. It just did something in my brain that made me be able to act like a normal person when it came to food. And if you have been living in an obese body, you know what it's like to be out of control around food, where you're just eating mindlessly. I cannot tell you how many times I pulled into a fast food restaurant without even knowing that I did. I cannot tell you how many meals I ate where I did not even realize exactly what I ate and how much I ate by the time I was done. I cannot tell you how many times I ate probably more than I was going to eat in a meal just while I was cooking for my kids, and then went and ate a meal after that. There were so many things in my life that were out of control when it came to eating and food, and being on a GLP-1 instantly changed that for me. I will say that I am probably a lucky super responder, if you will. I definitely felt the effects of medication immediately. I took my shot at about 10 p.m. at night, and I woke up at 8 a.m. the next day as a changed person. My entire life changed overnight. I could not smell bacon. When I woke up in the morning, I was cooking breakfast for my kids. I was making pancakes and bacon, and I couldn't smell it. It was the weirdest experience of my life because normally when I cook bacon, it smells so good. I would nibble on a few pieces while I was cooking, and I couldn't smell it. It was not appetizing in the least. It wasn't enticing me at all, and I did not have one bite while I was preparing breakfast for my family. And that was just the clue of everything that was to come, that was going to be changing my life and allowing me to lose what ended up being 125 pounds. I started making changes immediately. That first night when I took my shot, I woke up the next day knowing that I wanted my life to change. Having the medication in my brain allowed me to make these changes without it feeling hard or without it feeling like it was a chore. But I immediately made changes to my diet. I quit fast food. I stopped going to fast food that very day. I quit eating at restaurants. I started cooking everything at home. I started focusing on getting in protein. That was not something that I ever worried about or cared about before, but with a GLP-1 in your system, you're only able to eat a certain amount of food. Like the volume of food is very limited. So I knew that whatever I was eating, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be the most nourishing food for my body. So I knew that I needed to be eating protein. And I also knew that I needed to be eating vegetables and fruit and fiber. So most of my meals were just some sort of protein and some sort of fruit and vegetables. And there really wasn't much room for anything else in the very beginning of my journey. As I went on and I was able to eat more, I added in things like rice and potatoes. And now I pretty much eat anything. I actually ate a bag of chips this morning. I had a bag of Sun Chips because it sounded good to me. So changing your life doesn't mean you have to give up everything that you love, but it was a temporary sacrifice in that moment to make sure that I was giving my body what it needed so that I could nourish myself while losing weight. Another change that I made once I started on my weight loss journey was that I started weighing myself every day. As somebody who was scared of the scale, didn't own a scale for years, and avoided it at all costs, this was a huge change. But I wanted to have data so that I could understand what was happening to my body and make changes accordingly. So I started weighing myself every day. I woke up in the morning, went to the bathroom, got myself completely naked because of course we want to have the scale be as low as possible. And I stepped on my scale and I weighed myself. I didn't have a fancy scale. I had just a regular old bathroom scale, and that's what I went with. I entered my weight into Happy Scale, which is an awesome app if you are unfamiliar with it. You enter in your weight and then it will show you kind of a moving average of what your weight is based on the previous weights, because we all know that our weight fluctuates. It is a natural thing that our weight is going to go up and down. From one day to the next, we're not going to maintain exactly the same weight. What we eat affects it. If you're going on an airplane and retaining water, that definitely affects your weight. There are so many things that can affect our weight. But when we're weighing every day, we have enough data that the scale can, over the course of a week, can directionally be going in the right direction. If you have a lot of weight to lose, let's say at least 50 pounds or more, definitely if you have 100 pounds or more, in the beginning, the weight should come off faster and easier. You have so much weight to lose. So the amount of weight you're losing in the beginning is such a small percentage of your overall body weight that it's just going to come off faster. Now, when you're toward the end of your journey, it does get a lot slower and it gets harder. So this video is mostly for people who are more in the beginning of their journey with a lot of weight to lose. By weighing myself every day, I was able to see the fluctuations in my weight, and I was able to ensure that over the course of a week's time, my weight was going down. If it wasn't, if I was seeing that there was something making my weight stay the same, I could assess what was going on. The scale is not the problem. The scale is not lying. It's just telling you the fact of what you weigh. Of course, there are all these factors that can play into what you weigh, but facts are facts. If you are somebody who struggled with food like I did, like many addicts, I lied about food a lot, not just to other people, but a lot of times to myself. And part of weighing every day and being honest with yourself and knowing that the scale is not lying is to be brutally honest with yourself, taking into account all of the things that are the inputs that you can control, because the truth is we can't control what the scale says. I remember in the beginning looking up, how am I actually losing weight? I thought for sure that I was peeing it out, so I needed to be drinking more water, or maybe I needed to be pooping more because I needed to be getting it out that way. Well, Google tells me that you're actually losing weight more just by respirating, just breathing. So that's why overnight I'm just breathing and I'm doing the hard work, and I wake up in the morning and I weigh a little bit less. And that's kind of a interesting thing, and it's a bit of freedom because the actual weight loss is out of our control. So we can't control what the scale says, but we have a lot of control over several other inputs that can affect the weight. So when I say that I want to make sure that I was not lying to myself, I wanted to take an honest assessment of what was I eating. I wanted to really know what was going into my mouth. And of course, to lose weight, you do need to be in a calorie deficit. I am not somebody who prefers to measure and track all of my food. Some people have a lot of success with that. And if that is you, that is great. If you haven't tried it, I would encourage you to try it. Go ahead and track all of your food for a week, put it in MyFitnessPal, track what you're eating, and see how you do. It is the biggest eye-opener to see exactly what you're eating and how that affects your weight. So you're tracking and understanding what you're eating, and then you're looking at that output on the scale, and you can start to understand the correlation and the relationship between the two. For me, I don't prefer to track. I did Weight Watchers like many other people. I counted points for a long time. I found every which way in the book to cheat those points and figure out how to get around the points. And that's just not a road that I want to go down again. For me, I prefer to intermittently track. And so I will track foods that I eat regularly. So things like I enjoyed a yogurt bowl almost every day when I was on my weight loss journey. So I would measure out the yogurt. I would measure out my granola. I measure out the jam that I put in my yogurt bowl. So I knew exactly what a yogurt bowl should look like. And I knew how many calories that yogurt bowl was. So I would know if I was eating this yogurt bowl, that's about 400 calories. That's a meal for me. And if I pair that with a protein shake, that's 400 calories. And then pair that with a salad or protein and vegetables dinner, that would be another 500 calories. That is a good day for me. Other things I might track would be things like carbs. When I started adding more carbs back into my diet, I would measure out the rice that I was eating. I would measure it on a food scale. I would measure out the potatoes that I was eating on a food scale. Because again, I want to have an idea of what a normal serving size looks like. And then I have an idea about how that fits into my day. If you're like me and were overweight or obese before, you were overeating. And it's so easy to continue overeat because our brain doesn't understand what a portion size looks like. I don't use portion sizes as some ultimate supreme goal. I just use it as a starting point. Sometimes I'll measure out half a cup of rice and then realize, wow, that looks like too much for me. I'm not that hungry. I'm going to go with a quarter cup of rice instead. Sometimes I might really enjoy my potatoes and I want a little more than what a serving would be. So I have complete freedom in that, but it's freedom because I have the knowledge of what a starting serving size is, so that I know how that is affecting me and my weight when I go on the scale, not just the next day, but the next few days and by the end of the week. Other things that can affect our weight, if you are a woman, we have our cycles, and of course our weight is going to fluctuate with our cycles. I will tell you that on my journey to lose 125 pounds, even though my weight might have gone up a day or two sometime in my cycle, again, my weekly average always went down. I did not have 1 week on my 125-pound weight loss journey where my weight went up. I had a few weeks where it stayed the same. I know some people will say that they are hitting a plateau. For me, I never let it get to a plateau because I was so in tune with what was happening with my body that I was constantly making changes. I didn't want to let the shot just happen to me. I wanted to use the shot as a tool and work with it and do everything I could to maximize my weight loss as much as I could. Again, maximizing my weight loss meant just controlling all of the input variables that I can. What I was eating, how I was exercising, how much I was eating, when I was eating. All of these things affected my weight, and I only learned all of these things by trial and error and weighing myself every single day and putting that together with all of the information that I was honestly collecting and telling myself about how I was fueling my body. So then I had a really good picture of how I could pull some different levers to control my inputs and ultimately, hopefully, affect my output, my weight on the scale in a positive way. One thing to note about losing weight, if you are also starting to add movement into your day, I know a lot of people will say that muscle weighs more than fat. And besides the fact that that is just not true, of course, muscle looks leaner than fat on your body. It will take up less space. But the thing is that even though you build muscle, you can still be losing weight. So I started weight training pretty early on in my journey to lose 125 pounds. I had several DEXA scans done that showed I was building muscle consistently. And again, while my weight might have gone up a day or two, my weekly average continued to go down every single week, even though I was building muscle. If you are somebody who is starting out thin and building muscle, you might have a different experience. But from my experience starting out obese and building muscle, that weight can continue to melt off and the scale can go down even while you're building muscle. And another truth about building muscle is that it takes a long time to build muscle. Muscle does not happen. You cannot go to the gym twice in a week and do a body pump group exercise class and then blame the scale going up on muscle building. That's just not how it works, and it's not how it happens. Muscle is going to take at a minimum weeks, more like months to build. For me, every time I was building significant amounts of muscle, it took months of consistent 4, 5, or 6 days a week at the gym, doing strength training, focusing on the same body parts for months until I saw muscle growth. So if you are on a GLP-1 and you are not losing, it is time to stop blaming the scale and start to be honest with yourself. This journey takes so much courage and radical honesty about not just the mistakes we made in the past, but deep-seated beliefs and fears and shame that we have around food and our behavior and how we've been treated by others, how we've treated ourselves. There is so much that goes into this weight loss journey, but being honest with ourselves is the first step and the key to making the changes that we want to make so that we're seeing the results on the scale. So if you're blaming the scale, you can be upset about the scale for a second, take a deep breath, and then think about what are the things that you can do to control the inputs that go into your weight loss, and what are changes that you can make so that the next week that you might see more progress on the scale. The medication gives us the space. It is a gift to have space and time and breath in our life, to forget about food a little bit, to let that food noise go, to have more control and be able to exercise decision-making power when it comes to food. That's something that I did not have before, and something that I'm so thankful for now that I'm on a GLP-1 medication. But the medication is not on its own most likely going to make you lose a significant amount of weight. Sure, for some people, they will lose weight on a GLP-1 without making any changes in their lifestyle. For me, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to use the medication as a tool to make a complete lifestyle change so that I could not just lose weight, but have a better life. The GLP-1 isn't going to do the work for you, but you can use it to level up your success. So this journey is not about having the perfect week or making every single day perfect or going all in 110%, 100% of the time. The name of my channel is Small Things Daily because that is truly what I believe and what I believe gave me the success that I had on this weight loss journey by making small changes that are achievable and feel effortless every single day, and then adding one small change onto another so that in many months, you'll look up and realize that you have created an entirely different life. I think that is really the key to lasting success and big success on your GLP-1 journey. Each one of us will have different barriers to success. And so here again, we have that radical honesty and figuring out exactly what your barriers are. So whether you need to log your food, whether you need to start measuring your portions, whether you need to start making sure that you take a walk after every meal, whether you need to switch to low carb or low sugar options for some of your favorite foods, whether you need to stop eating at restaurants and start eating at home, whether you need to ditch packaged snacks or opt for high protein versions of those packaged snacks, whatever it is that you struggle with, you have to be honest with yourself so that you can start to make little changes every day. And I promise you will find success. So I want you to ask yourself, are you doing what it takes? Or are you just taking the shot and hoping that it works? You might be taking the shot and hoping that it works, and you might be completely happy with where you are on your journey and the progress that you're making. And if you are, I am happy for you. If you're feeling like you want more out of this medication and that you want to accelerate your pace, then taking these small steps and being honest with yourself and figuring out exactly what you need to do to level up that medication and accelerate your weight loss is going to be key. Thank you so much for being here. I've been sharing my life online for the past decade, and I have to say that talking about myself and my weight loss journey is something new and slightly uncomfortable, but I am so glad that it seems to be resonating with some of you, so I'm so glad you're here. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you'll see all of the videos that I'll be making. I would love for you to leave a comment and tell me what is something that you have struggled with being honest with yourself about. I know for me in my struggle to gaining 100 pounds over the course of about 4 or 5 years, I lied to myself so much. There are so many lies that I told myself, and I love that now I can be honest with myself about everything. I watched The Downsized Dish recently where Christopher and Lorraine interviewed Jamie, who has lost something incredible like over 300 pounds. And one of my favorite things that he said was that the beginning of his journey and what he encourages people to do is to start making and keeping promises to yourself. I think that really is key and really resonates with me because in the beginning, I felt like I was doing all I could to take care of those around me. I am a mom of 3, I have young kids, and I was doing everything I could to take care of everybody else. I had been breastfeeding for a decade and taking care of babies and toddlers and young kids, and that is not easy. I was cooking for everybody. I was keeping our house. I was running an online business, and the only person who got the short end of the stick was me. If you've ever had an experience with somebody who doesn't keep their word, it can be a really hurtful experience. I know for me, it causes a rift in the relationship where I don't trust that person anymore. You can't count on anything they say. You really start to question your place in the world because you can't rely on that relationship anymore. Now, imagine doing this to yourself over years and years. And I think that that is what I did to myself and what really was the biggest game changer once I started realizing, no, I'm caring for all these other people, but I am worth the same love and care just as much or even more as all these other people. So when I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to keep my word just like I would if I was talking to a friend. When you treat yourself with love and respect and are honest with yourself about all of the things going on in your life, That is the best you can do. When you're doing your best in that way, then we don't have to worry about what the number on the scale says, because we know that we're controlling all of the inputs the very best that we can. If you're taking an honest approach with yourself and asking yourself all the right questions and making sure that you are doing all the things within your power to do, and you're still not finding success, I would encourage you to talk to your doctor, because maybe it's time for a dose increase. Maybe it's time for a medication change. There are other things that could be going on with your body. You might need to get your thyroid tested. You might need to have blood work done to make sure there's nothing else happening. Maybe there are supplements that you're taking that aren't working the way that you think they are. And your doctor is going to be the best person to address some of those concerns, but I wouldn't wait. Because if you know that you're doing all that you can and the scale should be going down and it's not going down, then that's a clue that something else needs to be addressed. One of the things that I like to do with all of this data is to just keep a journal where you're just writing down data. You're writing about how your week is going. You're writing about what kind of sleep you're getting. You're writing about supplements that you're taking. You're writing about how your water intake was that week. And if you're jotting these little notes down and weighing yourself every day, you can be a little bit of a scientist and put those things together to start to track trends and understand how your daily life is affecting your weight. So write it down, do the work, be honest with yourself, and you will have more tools in your toolbox to affect those inputs so that hopefully you can start seeing the scale move in the right direction. Having cold, hard data is a million times better than having a wish and a prayer.
Living life, day to day, not okay, and I pray, all I need, I'm looking